Welcome to the October edition of the Sitecore meetup. So, pleasure to have everyone. Craig's not here, otherwise I would really thank him for this space. Isn't this an amazing, it's awesome, it's an amazing space. So we are really thankful for that. Every month we have these, we rotate these, so generally we have one that's more developer focused, and then we have another one the next month is going to be more business and marketing focused. We actually, this meeting, we're landing on the business marketing, but because we just are on the heels of having Sitecore Symposium last week, we're going to talk about that. So, all right. Who all went to Symposium last week? Okay, awesome. So the people that are in attendance that went to Symposium, we're going to have a panel discussion later in this session. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the agenda. So I'm going to go through Sitecore 9 and what's new. I'll try to cover like both business and what I can technical. Caitlin's like, yeah, probably not. But I'll try, okay? And on the panel discussion, what I want to do is just have so for you that were there, what are the biggest takeaways in your areas of expertise? So some of you went to more developer-focused sessions, some went to business and strategy sessions. We need to understand what were the biggest takeaways from those sessions, and we're probably going to, based on my talk and Sitecore 9, you'll probably have a lot of questions, stuff that even it's only been out for a week, right, or less than a week. We're still understanding, and so the people that were there, this is an opportunity to ask if you got any more clarification, from those sessions that we can dig in. Okay. All right. So I'm Brett Birchtold, Director of Experience Marketing with Rounded Cube, and so I am mostly going to focus on the business and marketing, but I'll try to weave in some of those technical things. So if you catch me on a technical aspect, just be nice, please. Just be nice, Ben. All right. So what happened at Symposium last week? I mean, this is a huge release. This is a .0 release. Okay, so this is Sitecore 9.0. So one of the big things was a branding change. So they actually changed it to be Experience Cloud. So it's a Sitecore Experience Cloud, which is actually an overarching brand of all of the main Sitecore products, which are Experience Management, Experience Platform, and Experience Commerce. Okay? So for each of those, Sitecore Experience Manager and Experience Platform. Come on, I guess. Can we take this seat around so that they can sit back there? I don't need to sit. Welcome. Hi, how you doing?
We can probably sit down.
Oh yeah, we can. Thank you. Hi. We do have lunch back there, so please, we can grab you lunch or whatever. It looks like Jimmy John's, so you can throw them. This is not Lambert's. That's also one of those releases. If you get hit by a Jimmy John's box lunch, not our fault. All right, so Experience Manager and Experience Platform is released now. So as of Wednesday of last week, that was downloadable. Experience Commerce is actually the new release of that's going to be in January. Okay. Sitecore XConnect is a part of that Experience Cloud under that brand because it's such a large piece. And so we'll talk about this in a little bit. But this is the new Sitecore Experience Cloud. Again, overarching brand to all the Sitecore products now. Most people right here, Experience Platform, that's going to be the traditional experience management piece, plus all of the digital marketing features that you would normally have in Sitecore. Okay? XConnect. So, and also just for everyone, I will post these slides as usual, and then also we'll post the YouTube links because we are recording. So each session here, the Sitecore 9 piece and the panel discussion, we'll have posted on YouTube shortly. Okay, what's XConnect? This is where I'm saying, don't trip me up, okay? It's a service layer. Am I on the right path? Okay. All right, so it's essentially this service layer to be able to, I'll give you the little marketing speak, it's to be able to connect in with multiple systems seamlessly. So it provides us this layer to be able to connect in with a CRM and the experience analytics piece. So it offers a set of APIs and services to integrate data from third-party systems to the experience database. Okay? That's about as far as I'm going to go, actually. No, I'm going to go down here. What it does provide is a foundation of out-of-box connectors. So in the experience platform, you get these two, Sitecore Connect for Microsoft Dynamics 365. So if you have a CRM that's Dynamics, or Salesforce CRM, out of the box it has those two connectors into it. So XConnect is that service layer that makes this really possible, okay? Otherwise, in the past, I believe you would have had to have a different connector to kind of get that custom link to happen. Is that correct? Gilbert? Okay. So anyway, I'll just leave this up here for a second if anybody has any questions. CRM, this is an example of where the API comes in at. So CRM, content delivery, content management for reporting. And on the other side, there's a processing, collection, and reporting. These are all services. Is that correct? Okay.
And I'll just say that it's not only third-party sites or CRM systems, it's the actual application itself. It uses XConnect in order to interface with the XDB itself. So that service layer sits in between the application and the actual XDB. And XDB is just an overarching cloud of personalization data, roles, and service roles itself. In the past, you would use MongoDB in order to track some of that data and gather some of that data. In Sitecore 9, you actually use the XConnect API to gather some of that current personalization information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just to add, so what Sitecore has really done is they created a standardized way by which we can access the experience database and then allow other third-party systems into it so that no developer, so every developer is doing it the same way. So
Sure.
cool.
So it's an endpoint that sits on like IIS. We'll get into that more.
Yeah. More marketing speak. It's really the realization, again, I think, more an executed realization of that 360-degree view of the customer. You know, that was always the promise, right? But this actually allows that to happen much easier. All right, Sitecore Cortex. So essentially, it's a set of algorithms, and so I'm going to read off the slide again because these, you know how these things go. Combine advanced machine learning algorithms and an innovative machine learning engine to deliver real-time insights across both native and third-party customer data. So essentially, right now, inside of, let me pull up my presenter screen here. So today, what this does is applies advanced machine learning and computational power across native and third-party customer data. So at its release today, what this is going to affect, engagement values. So it has the ability to use its data to modify engagement values on the fly using those machine learning algorithms. Okay. The next thing would be like optimization, testing. So being able to pick clearly winners based on a set of information that's already a part of the experience database. So another piece can do fully automated editorial optimizations without configuration, can do faster and simpler A/B and multivariate testing than any other product on the market, and segmentation detection for suggested personalization. So being able to say, okay, here's traffic here. The segmentation piece of it is being able to realize, you know, who's in what bucket, essentially. Okay, but in 9.0 Update 1, content tagging and scoring. Where's my SSW, guys? Tagging. automated personalization and segmentation discovery. So these are something that's going to be a follow-up release. I think that follow-up release, November, December timeframe, so it's not too far. Okay. Any questions with Cortex? Any other comments on Cortex?
I have a question,
Yes, please.
since you pointed me out.
Yes. Leif. Go on.
Content, what does that mean, content tagging and scoring? What's the improvement?
Right, so
Or what's the, the new
Sure.
functionality?
I would, because we don't know yet, because that's something that's going to be in a later release, I assume that that's going to be something that is still going to have the marketing control panel to be able to load up all of your stuff, your taxonomy and things like that, but then use that data to automatically apply that based on a set of conditions. So one thing with the machine learning engine there, there's a brand new rules engine that's included as well that it works with. So those rules and conditions there, I would assume, at this point, are going to work alongside of those taxonomy that you loaded up into the marketing control panel to be able to automatically apply. Yeah. Okay. Marketing automation. So this is, for me, it's a personal favorite. So no more engagement automation. So on the Experience platform, there's a product called Engagement Automation. It used to require Silverlight. So you had to open up another browser, open that thing, and build your automation plans and all this kind of stuff, right? You don't have to do that anymore. It's its own standalone app inside of the Sitecore dashboard. And so when you go into the dashboard, you click Marketing Automation, you're going to get this type of view after you create your own campaign. It's going to start out with a couple things, a start and an end state, and then it's going to have all these actions, listeners, and other elements. So being able to drag these things over from an action standpoint into an automation plan, listen for activities like device detection or hitting a certain page or whatever that is, being able to apply those actions is just a matter of dragging those into the line and then applying your conditional logic to it. And that builds your plan, essentially. So this is a brand new standalone app. It's obviously more modernized and like the other pieces of Sitecore. But I think this is going to be a huge win. It was really hard to work with, before, especially if you didn't have Silverlight. I think in the latest 8.1 release, that was less and less of a dependency, but it was still kind of complex. So pre-built campaigns. I like this one a lot because it has a sample user journey loaded up into it. So one of those user journeys is basically acquisition, conversion, account development, retention, and win back. So if you think it's just like a general user journey that your clients or your customers come in through, they're going to go through these kind of basic types of major steps, right? Sitecore's preloading the marketing automation tool with these steps and a set of already planned actions. Okay, so you're going to have to do less thinking on what you need to do to fill these out, and this is just a matter of modifying based on what's preloaded. So triggered emails in areas of cart abandonment wasn't possible. Cart abandonment in commerce was possible, but it didn't work. I don't think it worked at all with the engagement automation application. So now they've considered that whole piece of it working alongside commerce inside of the marketing automation tool. And again, we've already explained that there's completely no Silverlight dependency anymore. Compatibility. So 9, so today in 9, but then EXM 3.6, because right now 3.5 is out. That will get, and 3.5 is actually outside of the marketing automation tool. Does anybody have Email Experience Manager today? Okay. So they'll upgrade that to 3.6. That will work alongside of marketing automation, but that's going to be again in the 9.01 release, somewhere in the November, December timeframe. Okay. Okay, Web Forms for Marketers is gone. They replaced it. I know, you're
Let's say
smiling.
EPA.
Woo! All right. So it only works with MVC though, so don't get hopes up too much if you still use web forms, but that is one piece. But web forms for marketers gone. New standalone app. Looks a lot more like a traditional forms tool like you would see on MailChimp or something like that, right? So you can go in, you can actually choose from a list of templates of forms, and then you can create your own templates for those forms as well. So if you have something like a capture form for a newsletter or a sign up or anything like that, you can go ahead and create that, templatize it, and it's going to be available in your library. So modern intuitive app, it's all drag and drop. So you're going to get a similar from like marketing automation, like what we saw on the right sidebar is going to be all your elements and submit actions and things like that. They did build in multi-page forms. However, one thing that didn't make it on this one was conditional fields and conditional multi-pages. I'm waiting for that. I've been waiting for that for a long time. But it is a consideration for future releases. So other tools still trump this kind of feature. That's still going to have to be a customized thing for conditional logic and conditional multi-page. But it's a great step in the right direction with even having multi-page there. Okay? And I said MVC only. Okay. Federated Authentication. So now you can, it supports ADFS essentially and Azure Active Directory. So users can log in via Azure AD or any other OpenID Connect SAML, single sign-on authentication provider. And that's through Microsoft OWIN, which is the open web interface for .NET. Through those, these are all the existing providers. So OpenID Connect, I already mentioned that. A Microsoft account, a Google, Facebook, Twitter, WS Federation, OAuth, and SAML. Don't trip me up. I'm going to read off a slide. No shame. All right.
This is a big slide.
This is, I'm even like struggling with even approaching it, right?
It's really more technical.
You guys want to just take it?
I see how you did that.
Right? Manipulation. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna read off the slide. It's pretty long. Well, there's a JavaScript service layer now, and if you see up here, the Sitecore headless, it's truly an SDK to allow JavaScript developers to be able to interact with the Sitecore interface through the editor as well as any IDE that they choose. As far as the JavaScript services go, I'm pretty sure our CMCO EO back there would like to speak on that too at some point.
Which one?
The JavaScript services, because I know
We'll do that in a different.
Okay.
different sessions, but
Okay.
I'll mention a little bit about what Sitecore's doing with the client-side architectures. They're making it possible for the actual Sitecore code to be run on the client. Today is run on the server. Now you can run it in the client with JavaScript. So page editor, all the personalization features can be brought down to the client's machine, not necessarily have to go back to Sitecore to do it. So the idea is speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Experience editor loading up on the client's big.
Yep. And it can do all the analytics, all the tracking, and everything else on the local machine. So
Do
it's
people
pretty
know what
interesting.
headless mean? And, it's right there in front of us, but essentially
Margaret,
it's
this is
basically-
the marketing talk.
It's enforcement, but, yeah, essentially removing all that UI so that
The
basically
UI.
everything's available for you to do whatever you want in terms of the UI layer. So, and there's actually on GitHub, there's some sample applications over there that you guys can download using the JSS stuff. And you can see that, and if you're a full stack developer, you should be pretty familiar with all the different technologies using gulp and those kind of things. So Sitecore now, the architecture and the technology that they're going to is becoming more full stack. I commented on that one at one point on LinkedIn. Now to do Sitecore, you can't just be a .NET developer anymore. We used to be more like that, and you can't just be a content architect now. You have to be a full stack to take advantage of it. And a start of this one was the FXM. You kind of start seeing how FXM start using Sitecore content and exposing all of that, even personalization. So this is, to me, is kind of an extension of that, but now it's really making it even broader. So like you can use Angular and those kind of things and expose Sitecore, and I think Sitecore will eventually use Angular as its UI instead of Speak. So, so a lot of things. It is a .0 release, just so you guys know. So it's a big change. Yeah. So.
Moving on. Databases. So it used to be 3 databases, I believe. Is that correct? Core Master Web. Or are we talking about like 7.5 maybe? Major ones, okay? I don't know. XPO. Now there's 11. Okay, so part of that's forms. They separated that. Part of it's a collection database for marketing automation. I'm sorry, the engine, the ML engine. But there's 11. Everything runs on SQL Server SP1, SQL Azure, or Cosmos DB, I think in a future update. The latter two can be deployed in an integrated ARM and Azure Marketplace setup.
You might want to say that a little bit. That second point, I think, is probably the biggest point.
Which part?
Number 2.
Number 2.
Mongo is no longer required.
Mongo is no longer required. That's my third point,
Okay,
Ben.
sorry, I didn't know what that meant. Sorry.
Well, on that second point.
But-
SP server should be minimum 2016.
Yes, SP1. Yeah. MongoDB only supported on new collection server role. Now, so I did some digging on the technical side. Hooray for Brett. When the kids were asleep. But the MongoDB is only supported on the new collection, which is a new server role database. So there is an update coming to support 9.01, I think, for broader MongoDB support. There's expanded support including Azure SQL Search and no more Lucene. Lucene is out.
On that second point about Cosmos DB, just so you guys know, if you don't like MongoDB, because it's a different technology stack, essentially, you could use Cosmos DB now. There's an integration point to where you can actually use Cosmos DB for your analytics data. So.
Brett, does that mean that Solar is the only other option now? For
Solar
internal
and
external?
Azure Search.
Azure Search, okay.
Well, Lucene is still available for content.
Yeah,
search within
like
an actual-
on a solution, you can use Lucene for a content search, like on the front end. But this is for Sitecore search.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that really has to do with the XConnect as well. The actual XDB now has 2 different services. It has a search and a collections service, and the collections in both that search uses Solar, and it comes out of the box.
Upgrade paths. So this one was a little tricky, trying to get all of the information, but essentially 8.1 you can upgrade directly without needing any migration tool. On 6.6, 7.2, and 7.5 or 8.0, you do a clean install of 9.0 and then migrate using the Express Migrations tool. If you're on 6.5 or lower, plus 7.0 or 7.1, you can run through each upgrade version to support each one to one supported by one of these to get to that migration tool. Okay, so you just go up one, or go up, to 7.1, 7.2 to 7.5 or whatever, and then use the Express Migration tool. Okay. EXM for version 9 is projected to ship 30 to 45 days later, so November, December timeframe. That's in the 9.01 release. Experience Commerce ships January 2018. What's deprecated? So we have social connected, which is old Federated Authentication, the Confo social connector, obviously Silverlight, the .exe Sitecore install framework. So this is another thing that you guys probably would need to talk about, is they have a new PowerShell module based installation method called the Sitecore installation framework, so that it makes it easier, I believe, to install. Deprecated dynamic CRM security provider, and then the SharePoint connector as well.
Is there any plan to bring SharePoint back?
Good question.
You'll use the XConnect in order to connect to SharePoint.
I think that's a lot of why all these connectors went to the wayside, because now there's that XConnect layer. Deployment options. So you could always do the IaaS and PaaS deploy, but they're expanding their Microsoft support, obviously. So this is going to be a more flexible way of going about it. So on IaaS, you can, of course, create your VMs in IaaS. You can have Azure support that environment. You can also spin it up through AWS, Google, and Rackspace. Rackspace provides what they call, I think there's two, it may be in a later slide, but they provide two hosting options there. One's a standard hosting that you can do on the cloud with Sitecore, and they provide a certain level of support. They have what's called Premier hosting, and that's actually done through Rackspace, and they provide a higher level of support with quicker turnaround times and less downtime. On the PaaS side, this is directly through Azure. So you can always do Sitecore on-prem, that's still available. Okay? Run it on Windows Server and SQL Server, obviously. On the cloud side of it, Azure IaaS, PaaS, there's the Managed Cloud Standard and Premium that I was talking about. So Standard is Sitecore hosted, Premium is Rackspace hosted. And then you have Sitecore Managed Services via Solution Provider. Okay? Okay, it's my time. Guys, gals. Well, I mean, Caitlin, but I mean, are you on the panel? No, you're not on the panel. Did you go to meetup or a symposium? Okay, that's okay. I didn't mean to like dig. I'm just, Okay, any questions before we get started? Any questions on the licensing model? Licensing. So they still do the subscription model. So they do that based on visits and the add-on modules that you want. So it's been this way, I believe, for a while, where add-on modules like EXM, the Email Experience Manager, Sitecore Experience, Accelerator, those are add-on modules to your product. Okay, if you do the subscription model, subscription model through Sitecore, those add-ons are considered in that price, and then they come up with that per visit count, and then they come up with your number. So that's basically how they're going to do the subscription. Then you also have the perpetual model, which a lot of clients are still on. So it's a great model that is based on how many servers, non-production and production. On the subscription model, they do not consider any production instances. They don't care how many production instances you are on, because obviously those production instances are going to grow and expand and contract based on traffic. So they don't get hung up on how many production installs that you have. Okay.
So how was the experience? I'll go ahead and start just because this is my first time. First time being at Sitecore Symposium. Second time, or actually first time being in Vegas. So hit the age of 40 and thought, cool, I'll go to Vegas for the first time for work. That's 5 days and still tired from it. But no, the overall experience I got was, obviously they're pushing the new Sitecore 9. So sometimes when Sitecore presents a new version of something, you always think, oh, they're really focused on the technology, which they should be, obviously. But some of the things that kind of get missed are, what do marketers and content authors experience? What are the things that are you know, keeping them from getting things to market, campaign-wise, everything else, faster. And that's what they've been doing, at least for this release. The impression I got for Sitecore Forms. I've worked with many clients who have frustrations with web form for marketers, getting them put together, getting them set up right, and configured correctly. Here, they're making some of that that usability very easy. Drag and drop features, templates like we saw that they have, like for you to, if you've never used Sitecore before, here's some examples. Get you to it. They want to kind of decrease that go live time. The same thing with the upgrades. They want to make sure that you are getting to Sitecore 9 some shape, form, or fashion. If you're at 6.6, 7.2, just get to a certain level, and then this tool will take you guys there the rest of the way. So a lot of the things that we've seen, or at least I've seen from the marketing and strategy side, has really to be improving your ability to get to where you want to quicker. The marketing automation piece is, I mean, getting a chance to see a demo of that is pretty impressive because it really gives you a better visual of what you want to do. It's easier to use, as you said, so it takes you out of a whole other set of hoops you had to jump through to get through there. So that was the overall impression I got from the entire conference, was that just trying to get everybody in, especially if you're not technical. I am not. I don't know why I'm between you two, but just getting a quick understanding of Sitecore so that you can just do your job, so you get things out there quicker, campaign-wise and marketing-wise. As for Mark Hamill, it was very interesting to see him. He did leave one story that kind of left me. When Star Wars first came out, he was also in a movie called Corvette Summer. I don't know if anybody else knows that.
That was Ron Howard.
Corvette Summer?
Wasn't it?
I don't.
That's
think so.
American Graffiti.
Yeah.
I thought it was like rugby.
No, it's
Yeah.
totally different. Anyway, so Star Wars comes out, and you know, like, yeah, thank you. Mark Hamill gets popular out of nowhere. He fought Kurt Russell for that role, and Arnold Schwarzenegger calls him and says, "Hey, can we do lunch? I just want to know how to get into Hollywood. I'm just a bodybuilder and that sort of thing." So Mark Hamill gave him two pieces of advice. One, lose the accent. He'll never get any roles with that accent. And two was to lose the last name, because the last name, like, no one's going to be able to pronounce that. So he's really glad that Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't listen to his career advice. But yeah, and of course, like, you know, it was a very big presentation, you know, so I feel like Sitecore is like up the game for a lot of things, like especially with this conference. For me personally, some of it was a little higher level than I would have wanted to. I would like some deeper dives. So I know that Sitecore is releasing some webinars and that sort of thing. So if you get a chance to catch some of those on more details, you can kind of see how things may pertain to you. I definitely recommend that. And I think we can probably provide some links and that kind of thing as those things are become available.
Sure.
I completely agree with the sentiment that Sitecore has shaped its focus into getting getting you to market faster, getting the product to market faster, with enhancements on things like the Sitecore Experience Accelerator, those forms, some of those automating systems, as well as just simply focusing on the customer experience and speeding up development time. So I think a bunch of the Helix principles and a bunch of things that they've introduced over the past year, and including in Sitecore 8, has been around gathering, not only gathering data, but allowing teams to work within parallel and decrease that development time and to increase the time to market. I also agree that Mark Hamill had some great stories. Each one of them was great. But in terms of what some of my biggest takeaways were XConnect and how that's set up, how they created that service layer and created one service endpoint that serves for two different services, the search and the collections within the XDD. This allows you to create different contact facets, create different, or gather different personalization stats and statistics from outside of Sitecore. So now you have an IIS site, which is just a simple website that has an underlying API, a RESTful API actually, that allows you to tap directly into it from a third-party application that you're building, or that we're building, that may be associated with the Sitecore site, but not necessarily under the same instance. That gives your personalization tasks or skills or so much more depth, because you can track different interactions from sites that aren't your corporate site or whatever. I really think that is huge itself, and it's one of their biggest pushes. The other one is, like I mentioned, the Experience Accelerator. Just some of the enhancements that they made there to make the development of a site inside of the Experience Editor go much more seamlessly. So they've added a tab, they've increased the layout service, they've added different components, drag and drop components, and even styling and theming that you can do within the actual platform itself. So I think, yeah, decreasing the time to market is their biggest push, and those are some of the tips that the tactics that they're using to get there. Technical deep dives, I did participate in a couple of them. They included the Commerce Engine, or the new Commerce Server. They're getting rid of their Commerce Server and introducing a Commerce Engine that allows you to be able to spin up a storefront, which also has Sitecore Experience Accelerator built right within it.
And merchandising
manager and all of that. And that'll be released in January, I believe.
January.
So seeing that was pretty cool. But the biggest thing though was the release and the aura of Sitecore 9 and the anticipation and how they pushed it and how they had the full conference for, I don't know if you're familiar with any other software, if you have an iPhone and you're anticipating an iPhone's release and how Apple has this major presentation, this major conference and the lights and shebang. So it kind of had that feel too. So it's pretty cool to witness that.
I don't have anything else to say.
Oh, come on. This is the first time he doesn't have anything.
I would say from a direction standpoint, Sitecore is really going after the business people, the business users from a marketing standpoint. I've been working with it for about 10 years, and it's no longer just a development platform. It's not a content management system anymore. It's truly an experience platform, and they're really focused on commerce and making sure that it's integrated as part of the product. And so there's a lot of features in target to marketers and business owners and the content contributors. And as developers, we're tasked with learning all this stuff so that we can help enable the marketing team and the business people to be effective at creating content, managing content, and then honestly how to react to all that content using automation and machine learning. So, it's really cutting edge stuff. I think the one takeaway that I can see from Sitecore is that it's big, and I think we all need to think about that. It's going to take some time to learn these strategies, implement them into businesses, and try to see what the return on investment is. So it's exciting stuff. They're really doing some cutting edge stuff. I got to be a part of a VR session, which I'm crazy about virtual reality. And they've integrated it into Sitecore, and to be able to manage VR promotions through the platform. So it's a system and a platform that is open to allow people to do anything that they want to do as it relates to web technology.
It's going to be even more so.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Definitely.
And I was in that session with them. That's a small bit of an understatement. What they Tech Guilds, which is a community partner, has developed what is called Peak, which is an actual component that sits inside of Sitecore that allows you to create 3D models in an actual augmented reality interface using your webcam, using your phone's camera, and choose, and it's kind of like Pokemon Go inside, but managed inside of Sitecore. Okay, all of the content, all of the presentation details, the building up of the virtual reality or augmented reality interface is handled inside of Sitecore. So, and that's pretty cool. It's under beta right now. A few of us have the opportunity to go in and test it out and provide some feedback, but it's looking to become a part of the Sitecore platform out of the box itself. Maybe in Sitecore X or 10 or whatever they decide to name it, if it does come out. But I do think that in agreement with then that it's large, and we're looking for a way to continue to not only shape the future of content management, but engage with those business users, engage with the marketing teams. Because at a certain point, the development practices that they can standardize and follow, but we're all going to code essentially how we've been coding or building and architecting how we have been doing over the past couple of versions. So now the only thing they can do is really make it nice and pristine and easier to use for just about everyone. And also standardize some of that stuff so that when a solution changes hands or whatnot, some of those principles are understood and already followed by the next development team or whatnot.
So for a developer that's in the room, they want to go ahead and get started putting this on. What are the things that they're going to need to know to get started with the 9.0 platform?
Well, we've mentioned the Sitecore install framework as a newer thing using PowerShell in order to spin up the site. I tend to still use the manual installation where you're actually downloading the zip file and spinning up the website themselves. If you want to use any XDB functions like storing or tracking your contact or even finding your contact, you'll need to also spin up the XConnect web service API within IIS. Of those 11 databases, it's not if you're not using the XDB collections or some of the marketing automation stuff, you don't necessarily need to spin up those DBs. But when you download them, they come as DAC packs. And if you're not familiar with DAC packs, they're just compiled databases that you deploy inside of your SQL Server environment in order to spin up the database. So the process is a bit different in terms of how many databases you have, the amount of sites that you got to spin up in order for it to fully function in a personalization environment. But and that's only if you're not using the install framework. The install framework is a different tool, and we can provide some documentation on truly how to use that, as we are discovering now that it is it's just not plug and play because it is large and because there are some principles that they want you to follow. So they have that install framework.
Is anything plug and play?
No.
The migrations tool is going to be completely plug and play.
Right, that's what they said.
Yeah. I would say from a new developer standpoint, I think, I mean, this goes back to just web practice in general, but I think Sitecore is making it required that the developer or the architect are going to have to understand the eyes of the marketers and the marketing team. I don't think we can go into an implementation and talk about personalization, talk about automation, I mean, and have those topics there and not implement some facet of it, which means we have to understand how to manage it, how to maintain it, how to run a project on it. What do those requirements look like? How are my customers consuming this information? How do we test against it? You know, all of those factors are going to translate from a developer standpoint in order to support or build something that people can build on top of, that's extendable, that lasts not for 6 months, but for years to come. So.
And just back to that experience cloud now, because it truly is a lot about engaging the customer and gathering a lot of that data and storing it and then interacting with that data. So those are the reasons for the XConnect now. Those are the reasons for the machine learning, so that you can build some of those profiles automatically without someone going in and tagging them, like just going in and creating tags. But that machine learning itself is big because it allows you to personalize and produce the proper content without you having to make the algorithm up in your own head, you know. So, but yeah, I agree. Seeing developers seeing the solution through a marketer's eyes and then approaching an architecture that way, they're trying to ease that process.
I'm really excited for Ben to start seeing it my way.
I mean, I see it your way, I don't know if I agree with it.
I've been asking him for years. Listen to me. So I heard something about dynamic placeholders. I don't know how big that is in that community, but expound on that. Let me know if that's a really big thing or that's not a very big thing at all.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I would say dynamic placeholders probably is one of the best features that you could ask for from the developer in terms of Sitecore. It really helps when it comes to reusing. Since we're all using Bootstrap Foundation, we try to reuse components and reuse placeholders, and we want to create this grid system. So having dynamic placeholders gives us the ability natively out of the box in order to copy the same exact component over and over and over again in the same placeholder without having one component interfere with each other.
Okay.
So it's gonna be great for the marketers, and they can actually reuse components and not have to put one component here and then have something messed up. There are many tools to allow dynamic placeholders to work, so the fact that they're putting it into the product right now is pretty great.
Let me add to that. Not sure if, sorry, I'm on this side, but dynamic placeholders are great. Like, for example, you guys are on your experience editor, right? And you have a section that has a placeholder of section content or something like that. So the developer just put section content as the name of the placeholder key, right? So you keep putting in there, but if you do it the traditional way, not using dynamic placeholder, Sitecore won't know which placeholder you're actually trying to put it on because it says Sitecore-content, right? So dynamic placeholder automatically puts a GUID after the key holder, so now when you put it in there, it knows that you want to put it on the first section instead of the second section, and you can put multiple section sub-layouts or whatever like that. So that's the practical use of dynamic placeholder. However, make sure you look at Habitat implementation of dynamic placeholder. There's a Sitecore extension which you guys may want to use as part of your toolkit when you're doing your Sitecore. There's a Sitecore extension there that uses dynamic placeholder to where you can implement dynamic or using static naming and stuff like that. So take a look at that.
And dynamic placeholders were actually introduced in Sitecore 8 with the Sitecore Experience Accelerator. And that is how those reusable components are generated using the dynamic placeholder.
But that's not something that was a part of the actual platform.
With the native
before.
dynamic.
That was
It
a
was a
part of
module.
that.
Right, it was module for the actual module
Yeah.
itself. Yeah.
Okay.
So now you can do it your own. You create your own.
Right. Do you guys have questions? This is your opportunity to ask questions that, you wanted to know something from Symposium, or you had some functionality concerns, or, new product that was introduced, or anything like that.
Our biggest weather.
Biggest
I did want to add on the machine learning that Leif asked earlier.
Yes.
Just want to make sure everybody knows Sitecore is doing machine learning, not the broader sense of AI. So machine learning is about adding data as much as you can, and then the machines tries to learn from that. So that's what Sitecore is doing, Cortex basically. And Sitecore does provide you a way to change that engine if you need to. So it's still open naturally, it's just the Sitecore way. But one example that they did give was for personalization outside of tagging and those kind of things. So when you do a personalization, you put your own rules. Obviously, you still do that. It's basically it knows all the data about the user, their behavior, all of that. You can't necessarily track all of that and put it into a rule. So using parameters and those kind of things, it can come up with the best offer based on some parameters that you provide, based on a lot more data that you as a marketer could have known. So if you have multi-channel, then all that data can come through XConnect and those kind of things, and then the Cortex comes into play to kind of analyze that. And it learns basically over time. So one user might be liking this product A, and another user product B based on some behavior. Then it comes up with new ways of figuring out what's the better offer next time. So that's one example that that they came up with. So
I know they also have been paying very close attention to PII, or personal identifiable information. So in these releases, that is something that they're very much in tune with. So there should be no concern. The security is going to be there.
Yeah. I think now they've made a mechanism that the data can be encrypted now. Yeah, so
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, 'cause I think
yeah, there's a
Rest
choice or something.
and in transition
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I know it's a big concern for companies that deal with HIPAA compliance and e-commerce. being able
Or
to pick up
banks,
their-
financial stuff.
Yeah.
And just real quick on that machine learning, this is directly towards you, Leif, since we keep calling you out. If you remember, I don't know if any of you all are familiar with Coveo 4. They introduced the machine learning, and it's kind of like the same algorithm that they provide at Sitecore is using in terms of gathering content and data from users that across the country or whatnot, and then determining what's most popular, and then kind of creating a ranking system based on that content and the interactions with it. So it's kind of the same type of thing. And in terms of the security, just real quick, when using XConnect and developers, and if you're using XConnect and you have the site spent up, and you plan on attaching a third-party site or a separate site, just make sure that it connects across HTTPS, and you provide just client server certificate information to the API, and you should be able to grab any data that you'd like. It only communicates over secure and trusted clients, though.
When you say use and connect to a third-party site, what features are available using XConnect, especially around dynamics?
Well, you can gather all the contact information. It's essentially the same features that would be available through the tracker, if you're familiar with Sitecore's tracker. The contact information and all of the facets. The main model that gets used is personal info. So you have their first name, last name, email information, all of that. But you can also create your own model, own XDB model itself that can be custom to what the dynamics would be receiving or need to receive. And then you'll just connect to that API, pass the model and the information using a key value pair, and it stores inside of the XDB. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like a single directional.
No, it's
Bi-directional?
bidirectional.
It's bidirectional.
Yes, you can send data and store in XDB as well as retrieve. You can create, retrieve, search as well. Now, search is a separate service, but it also uses the same service endpoint that you would set up in your connection string in order to search for like contacts or search for contacts based on personalized data. Yeah.
Great. Did you want to talk more about the JSS piece of it? When I had that slide up, you guys like, well, I'll just kind of move on to a later point, but if that's something that you want to come back to, it's a great time.
I mean, it can be really big, so.
It's pretty hard. I think we're gonna have an entire session.
Meetup. Okay.
Yeah, have this in the JavaScript service layer, so.
I think we've got our next meetup discussion.
I mean, it's really more for the developer, what they can do in terms of.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's not gonna, I mean, the business or the marketing users are probably not gonna see that much different in terms of feature set, but it's really what we can do from a developer standpoint.
Like within Sitecore, though, like within the Experience Accelerator, you can create your own JSON objects now to be adds to certain components to feed out. And that's because of some of the JSS headless implementation that they did.
That's-
JavaScript services.
And I personally, I just think Alex Sheewood just wants to play around with JavaScript. So-
Check my Twitter. I had tweeted the article. No, I'm just joking. No, I'm not joking. You can check my Twitter at GCP_RC. There's a good load of information.
There's no solicitation. This is a community.
Camera at GCP.
That's gonna be edited.
I have it on the back of my card.
All right.
Which you'll make available to everybody.
Just to point out too, Sitecore over the years has taken a lot of partner feedback. They go through pain points. Every Sitecore implementation obviously is a heavy investment. There is a lot of bells and whistles that go with it. It can be overwhelming, it can be underwhelming, but the important thing is that what they've done is they've taken that partner feedback, the customer feedback and everything else, and they've really tried, as I mentioned before, just tried to make things more efficient, from upgrading, even to consideration how design goes, the design process, so that basically these can be replicated and made faster, so that partners get better experience working with our clients, but then also, as Gilbert mentioned too, you hand off solutions and that kind of thing, that like everyone's kind of working within the same ballpark. I mean, I think for all partners working with clients and customers, they are typically going through the same process. They do it a little bit differently here and there, but Sitecore's listening. They're listening to the entire experience from beginning to end. What are the pain points for getting this out to market finally, and that kind of thing. So, so that's why I think 9 is really a good culmination of all those years of feedback.
Yeah. They've had a lot of shakeup, I guess, with, I don't know if that's the right term, but they've definitely had some sales movement. They've had account management movements, people going, people coming. All of that is kind of transformed a bit and kind of come to a head. And I think with the 9.0 release, there are more brands than ever on that. I saw one of the slides where it's like how many enterprise brands now that they have, and I think it's over 4,000 companies worldwide that are using Sitecore. There's probably even more than that, but 1,700 partners, I believe, across the world. So as far as, I mean, where the industry knew them as, they've 7 or 8 years running in the content management space. They've been right there neck and neck to Adobe on the Gartner Magic Quadrant. But I think that hasn't really fully realized across the entire platform, and I think this is one of those great steps to kind of fully realize the platform with the marketing features especially. That's what I'm really excited about.